Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late, or lack thereof. Apologies, it's just this channel is very sporadic if you haven't noticed. So sometimes there will be content, and other days there may be like one or two new forms of content. So that's just how we roll here. Hopefully you guys are cool with it. If not, it's fine. But it's just how I roll. So, but we have another news roundup this week because we got some interesting bits of news. We will try to do some more content in the future, that I promise, especially towards the end of this year. We're definitely getting down to the wire, so we will have some new content coming out soon. But we have some news for this week, so let's just cut this short and dive right on in. So the big story for this week is revolving around J.J. Abrams. Now, this kind of came and went. I don't think a lot of people will discuss it, but I think it actually is pretty noteworthy. So, J.J. Abrams apparently is really not Hollywood royalty anymore. At least not as valuable to Hollywood as he once was. So, just to explain, because there's a lot of things that come with the story. So, there was a 5-year production pact that J.J. Abrams was offered up by Warner Brothers. This went into effect in 2019, and it carried about at least $500 million worth of an investment, which gave J.J. Abrams lots of financial support and saying power from Warner Brothers in fostering and building up his production company, which is Bad Robot, which would be underneath Warner Brothers' umbrella. So in essence, Warner Brothers saw potential in J.J. Abrams, bless me, and wished to establish his company to further their relationship and to create a new line of business in the film market with this production company. So they were basically betting on his production company to take off in a big way, because at the time J.J. Abrams was also a hot name because of coming off of Force Awakens and becoming one of the biggest films of all time. So as the years went on, with really insubstantial showcase of success or progress, the pact would end up being dropped by a half. And then after the 5 years were done, Warner Brothers, quote, according to an article I read, doesn't have much to show for all the coin that it showered on Abrams. Now, as a result of all that, after the 5-year pact that was made with the $500 million investment and then everything just dropping and dropping and dropping, the company has now downsized his production pact in a newly revised pact. And this has signaled to investors in Hollywood that J.J. Abrams as a name has lost significant value. Now, to get him specifics, talking about what he did do within that 5-year pact, he made, within his production company, multiple attempts to announce and to further establish developments, mainly in the realm of television. So relatively, according to sources, about $50 million was spent on television deals with producers, filmmakers, etc. Some of these developments that would come to existence and released would be Little Voice, which lasted for about a season, and Duster, which will be released on streaming next year. And according to a source that I read, I believe it's Variety I read, Duster as a show, for the showrunner specifically, they were paid $10 million per episode. And I believe about 8 episodes were made, so about $80 million payday, so yeah. Okay, and then some of these developments that ultimately got canceled were a spin-off series to The Shining, an adaptation of Constantine, which that was kind of being worked on for a while, but ended up not happening, and a $200 million series called Demimondi, which ultimately got scrapped due to budgetary concerns, and it was never picked up elsewhere because they tried shopping it around to other streaming platforms, and, well, nothing really happened there. So now, when it comes to the big screen, when it comes to any cinematic offerings or any film developments, there was very, very few. One of which that apparently is still being pursued is the Black Superman project, which is being written by Ta Nashi Kotas. I think I say his name. Sorry, I probably butchered the hell out of that. We don't know if this project is ever going to exist. It's apparently still being actively worked on, but we don't know if it's going to completely move forward, given the company is focused now on James Gunn and his Superman project landing in theaters next year. And also, I just heard that we're going to get a trailer this week. So who knows what's happening there. And in any other developments in film-wise, J.J. Abrams helped in producing the upcoming Flowervale Streets, which stars Anne Hathaway, and that holds a budget of about $85 million. And I say that because I think his production company is involved. Yeah, if he's producing, so his production company is involved. And arrives in theaters March 13th, 2025. Now, with this specific development, him producing this specific film, Warner Brothers was reportedly not as enthusiastic by this development, as they had different expectations for this specific 5-year deal. So, now, as the article points out, as the Variety article points out, any active productions that were happening at the time, between 2019 to 2024, they would have been affected by the pandemic, which would have demanded delays, increases in those specific investments, and higher profits that would need to be made in order to make genuine returns on those investments as well. So essentially, outside of 2 active film projects and 2 released or soon to be released television series, there has been very little momentum or example as to why this was a justified investment, and in turn, why they shouldn't continue to invest largely with this partner. Obviously, they don't want to lose J.J. Abrams because of what his name has delivered in the past, namely, and as I mentioned, The Force Awakens, which I know that was for different companies' benefit, Disney, but just value-wise, that's what J.J. Abrams holds as a name, is something like The Force Awakens, which is one of the highest-grossing films of all time. And they were basically waiting on him to deliver a Force Awakens. They were looking for that. That's why they invested in J.J. Abrams in the first place, is because of a film like The Force Awakens and what it meant for Hollywood and ultimately the margins, the types of profit that it made. They wanted to replicate that success. So that's why they fostered and tried to help build up his production company. And that never happened. And this is really the result of placing so much trust onto one creative. They really just bit off more than they can chew. A more modest size would have made the investment less risk-taking and not put so much pressure on Abrams' company to take off. Because, a $500 million investment, it's a lot of money, and, there's probably other factors that we're not even considering, so maybe the investment's a little bit higher. But, yeah, I mean, and on the other side, to be fair, for Abrams himself to not do much of anything for 5 years, I mean, he's literally just burning the company's money. So it makes all the sense to make their investment smaller for the future. But it's also loud and clear that J.J. Abrams ain't that important as he used to be. I mean, can you think of a film that J.J. Abrams has done since The Rise of Skywalker? I mean, nothing. I mean, he's produced a few things here and there, but he hasn't directed anything. He hasn't done anything really of significance in the past 5 years. And he has this deal in place, and, I'm pretty sure behind the scenes he was trying to develop things, but generally nothing happened. So I can understand why the company is going, yeah, we don't really need to keep this up anymore. And that's unfortunate because of what the expectations were of him, but also of how little he did to make an effort under this agreement. So if you don't do anything with $500 million and the expectation is for you to do something with it, don't expect the same kinds of deals to be available down the road. So it just signals that J.J. Abrams as a name has lost value, and ultimately the royalty factor that comes with Hollywood with specific names, because people would bring up J.J. Abrams as he's in a different tier of his own, right? Obviously, no, that is no longer the case. So, And that's what happens when you don't do shit for 5 years. You lose value. You just lose value as a name. So. All right, keeping it with Warner Brothers for a little bit here, let's talk about something that was not that surprising. I mean, it's been disputed, but it will happen at some point. According to the Hollywood Reporter, sources tell them that Warner Brothers has been handed a pitch from Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for a potential sequel to Barbie. Warner Brothers and both of the talent's representatives for Gerwig and Baumbach, they have denied the reports as not being credible or accurate. But Hollywood Reporter is going off with their story, so who knows? But whether or not this information is correct, I mean, it goes without saying that a follow-up, with or without the original team, it's going to happen at some point. For how large of a success the original ended up becoming, it would be odd to not at least hear of any developments. So, they're just waiting for this team, Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, they're just waiting for them to be available and to have an idea. But you will get a Barbie 2. It will happen at some point. It's just a matter of when. So, and if Hollywood Reporter is to be believed, it sounds like there is some momentum on a follow-up. So yeah, you'll get one. Barbie 2 is going to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when. So. Okay, moving on from that, something that is actually in development, actively in development, and has been not disputed by the company. Talking about DC for a second, adding to the building slate of DC projects under the reign of James Gunn, DC Studios has announced their intentions to develop a standalone feature surrounding Clayface. Now, I wouldn't really care to talk about this, but there's a notable face attached to this in terms of the screenplay, and that face is Mike Flanagan. Now, Mike Flanagan, he's most, of course, notably created The Haunting of Hill House, but in the film front, he has directed several Stephen King adaptations, including Dr. Sleep. And in the past, he's expressed wanting to direct a feature surrounding the character, but due to his recent commitment to developing a Exorcist film, he'll be instead involved primarily as a screenwriter. Matt Reeves and his production company will be involved as producers, and according to a Deadline, the film will depict the character not as a villain, but potentially as an anti-hero. No indication of whether or not it is involved with the DCU or if it's a standalone story, although Deadline points out that Clayface is apparently a key player in the upcoming Batman sequel, but that was recently shot down by James Gunn, so who knows if who's telling the truth there. But basically, from what it sounds like, we'll be getting DC's answer to Venom, which is to present a liquid, monstrous type creature as some kind of heroic figure. Or, what I'm kind of hoping that they'll do, which is why I'm kind of curious about this, is I hope that they go the route of Joker and make it out to be more nuanced in depiction, which I'm not saying Joker was super nuanced at all, but I'm just saying that I hope that that's the intent behind it. But it's an interesting prospect to potentially commit to a more horrific, scary depiction of a heroic type. But I highly doubt that those ambitions will be fully translated, especially given recent ambitions like Joker Folie à Deux, which was completely rejected by the moviegoers. But I'd be curious to see how this forms, especially given Mike Flanagan's involvement. So we'll see how it develops. I have my doubts it'll sprout to be anything truly special. Like I said, probably more in the vein of what Venom is. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm just kind of curious, just because of who's involved and the prospects of what it could be. But we'll just have to wait and see. All right. The other major thing that happened this week, obviously, is the releases of two notable films, that being Kraven the Hunter and Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Yeah, they did not do too well. As expected. I mean, I did not see these films doing too well, but But we have their performances now coming off of the weekend. And just to get into specifics, talking about Kraven the Hunter first, this carries a production cost of 110 million. Now, initially, before its delays, the production costs amounted to at least 90 million. So due to the delays, it ballooned up to 110 million. This does not include marketing costs, also just to point that out. Its opening weekend and its global debut has a grand total of $26 million, opening in third place behind Moana 2 and Wicked. Domestically speaking, it is the worst opening for a Sony-produced Marvel project, and generally just one of the worst openings for a superhero film ever. So, yeah, not great. Not great for Kraven the Hunter, really at all. Now, on the other side of things, we have Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Now, this carries a significantly cheaper production cost in $30 million. And again, not including marketing expenses, which are probably pretty little, because there wasn't really a whole lot of marketing for this. This brought in a global debut of $10.3 million, and this opened in fifth place behind Gladiator 2. Now, in the case of Lord of the Rings, this film specifically was commissioned due to necessity to produce content in order to maintain ownership of the film rights, because they were not developing any content film-wise for Lord of the Rings for quite some time, so they had a deadline. They had to make sure that they maintained the rights, and that's why this film exists. And we have other projects coming out. We have that Gollum film with Andy Serkis. You know, they have basically films that they care more about that are going to come down the road, but just to sustain this deal, they had to create something in between, and that's why War of the Rohirrim exists. But yeah, man, not good numbers coming in for these films. I mean, for all that is with Kraven, it's not shocking that it bombed. I mean, with all the delays, the lack of interest, the general fatigue going on for the genre, it's not a shock to see this flop, especially considering the source of its production being in this like odd Sony adjacent film series with films like Madam Web and Morbius. It was destined to fail. As for Lord of the Rings, given the significantly cheap production, I'm a bit surprised the studio didn't put up more marketing for it. Like $30 million is really cheap. And I understand why it was made, but it's to say that if it's cheap, I mean, put up some marketing, try to get a return on investment if possible. I mean, it's really possible if you promote it well enough. I know the reviews have not been great, but, you know, given more awareness, perhaps maybe you would see bigger results. But I think that regardless with more marketing, though, I feel that it would struggle considering the format of presentation. Anime isn't as widely accepted here in North America as it is in the foreign market. You know, for some people, like people just around my age, they might find more interest in that vein of animation, but people just generally are not that interested in anime here. So, and yeah, so I think Lord of the Rings had potential to do better, but that's just more of optimism than anything. But yeah, these films did not do too well. They did not do too well. Expectingly did not do too well. So now next week we have Sonic and Mufasa, and that's pretty much it for 2024. So we'll see how that goes next week. So we'll see how that goes. But as it is with this was, as I expected, a pretty dead weekend. So. And finally, to round out our news roundup for this week, we have another live-action adaptation coming out from Disney in the form of Tangled. So we are getting a live-action adaptation of the animated feature. This is being helmed by Michael Gracie, who's most notable for The Greatest Showman, and it will be using a script written by Jennifer Caton Robinson. I believe that's how you say her name. whose most notable credits include Do Revenge, which is a film on Netflix, and Thor: Love and Thunder. No release date or casting as of this time, but so with this announcement, there's at least 6 live action remakes that are in active development at Disney, some of which include Moana, Lilo and Stitch, Snow White. There's a Hercules thing coming out sometime soon. Like, it's just become so overcrowded and exhausting to hear such expecting decisions from Disney, because it's so expecting at this point to hear them like just treading on old water and wanting to do live action remakes. I really think that the interest in these sort of developments is fading a little. Like, it's not to say that some of these developments won't pay off, as some IPs are more notable than others, like Lilo and Stitch and stuff like that is more notable. But it's to say that the sheer volume of this material, it really demonstrates a lack of creativity and to some extent a lack of confidence in adventuring into new territory. I mean, financially speaking, it makes all the sense in the world, as audiences are more accepting of familiarity than anything else. But investing in proven success is also not a bad strategy at all. You know, if it made money here, why can't we do it again just in a different coat of paint? You know, maybe sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just to say it's just boring and frankly really uninspired. So yeah, I've never had much interest in these decisions, and just talking Tangled specifically, I don't remember much of it. So I feel as time goes on, more people will come to that conclusion as well, like just kind of not caring for these sort of things. There is, there's a good amount of people I've noticed that are just kind of getting exhausted by this sort of thing too from Disney. But maybe that will translate into finance. We'll see. We know that will be the case for Snow White because of all the unfortunate controversy that surrounded that film. But we'll see how that translates to other material in the future. But yeah, I just don't care. I really don't care. So that's just how I feel about it. So, but yeah. That's going to be it for this week, guys. No trailers. We'll have a Superman trailer this week, so stay tuned for that in the next news roundup. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below in regards to these things. Potentially a Barbie 2 happening soon. J.J. Abrams just basically being taken down a notch. Clayface film, Tangled, live action. Your thoughts on the box office for Kraven and Lord of the Rings. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.